Vegetables in gelatin or aspics were quite popular in Jane Austen's time. We're going to put together a chicken broth aspic that really looks spectacular on your buffet table. Now this one's quite large as I'm using a bundt mold, so it does take 10 cups of chicken broth. Begin by putting half the broth into a deep pan and then sprinkling your gelatin over the top. Allow the powdered unflavored gelatin to soften for about 5 minutes. And during that time you could begin to separate the egg whites. This step, beating and frothing up the egg whites, is basically to clarify the broth, especially if you're using a homemade broth. If you're not, and the broth is already clear, you can skip this step. Bring the solution to a boil, and after about 10 minutes, remove it from the heat and allow it to cool. Most of the impurities in the broth will be caught in the egg white substance on top. And you can easily remove it with a spoon. And just to make sure we get every last bit, strain it through a few layers of cheesecloth. As mentioned before, every little impurity will get caught in that egg and you will be left with a beautiful clear broth. Now keep in mind that aspics really are not popular today because of their strange gelatin texture. It should be made for its novelty and look. Make sure that you have enough side dishes for your meal and don't rely solely on this one. Not everyone will eat it. And there we have a beautiful, clear broth. Now whatever tin you are using, spray the interior with an unflavored oil. And by simply putting in about 1 cup, we can begin the layering process. Into the fridge it goes, and it only takes about a half an hour for that first layer to become relatively solid. Here you can see it's already turned into kind of a solid gelatin. Now I'm grating about a half a cup of carrot and some lightly cooked green peas. You can sprinkle those green peas over this first layer of gelatin and then add the grated carrot. Add another cup or 2 cups of broth until the vegetables are relatively covered. And back in the fridge it goes for another half hour. Now this next step you can completely skip if you are serving the ham course or any meat course. These are cubes of ham, and I'm just showing you that a lot of times they did add some meat to the aspic, especially if it was meant for a picnic or a luncheon. In this case though, you can do a layer of blanched cauliflower or broccoli and leave the meat for the main course. If you do choose to put some squares of ham in, gently guide them to the center after the aspic has spent a half an hour in the fridge, so that they're not touching the edges. Now I've also blanched some red pepper slices, and I placed those along the bottom layer, along with some lightly cooked cauliflower, carrots, and broccoli. This makes for a real beautiful looking vegetables and gelatin. Now leave the entire mold in your fridge overnight. And here you can see how beautiful and spectacular this looks. Now if you spray the mold as suggested with oil, it really does plop out quite effortlessly. Make sure your thumbs are secure on the plate and turn it towards yourself. In this manner, the mold freely releases the aspic. And there you have a beautiful, amber-looking gelatin mold. Take out one of your lovely display plates, and I just place the mold directly on top, and I'm going to cover and hide the dish a little with some sliced cucumber. You can experiment with different spices if you like your aspic a little spicier. And there we have a beautiful presentation. Again, this is a novelty dish, so make sure you have plenty of side dishes with your main course. And what a spectacular dish this will be for your table.